Hi, I'm your host, Eric Borneaux.
Hi, Eric Borneaux. I'm your host, Knisk.
And you're listening to the God's Plan Podcast. And welcome to the third installment of the God's Plan Podcast.
Hey, guys.
That's right. I used to think it was impressive when, a podcaster would be like, hey, this is our 100th episode. And, no, that doesn't mean shit, dude. These podcasts can just churn out a bunch of really super... Now I know from personal experience, we can churn out a bunch of super shitty quality episodes and reach 100 in, a couple months.
Speak for yourself.
Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, today marks a very special day for the podcast because it is actually the first day in about 4 months that Borneaux used an alarm clock. Woo! Yeah! I know what you're thinking, but Borneaux, the quarantine lockdown has only been going on for 1 month. How much of a piece of shit are you? And the answer is a huge one. So... No, that's not. The real reason this is a special day is because our special guest.
Tell the goddamn joke.
I'm not telling.
Tell the joke or I'll tell it. So,
segue us into our.
I'm just going to segue right into there.
Intro.
So, how much of a big piece of shit are you, Eric Borneaux? Well, it turns out a big one. Which brings us to the topic of our guest. So, Duncan McKinnon.
So Duncan was a sleepy boy this morning. Had to get up at 10 a.m. That's okay. That's not that ungodly.
We should be doing that.
Which, yeah.
Probably.
So our special guest today is an absolutely remarkable individual. He's the deputy security marshal of a private island off the coast of Maine. He's an avid kombucha. He's an avid kombucha enthusiast. A listener of alternative rock hipster music, and a dirty commie, a dirty stinking commie. I am talking, of course, about the one and only Duncan McKinnon. Duncan, welcome to the show.
Woo! Take offense to that last descriptor. Not a commie, but probably a little dirty right now.
Commie. I said coffee. He loves coffee.
You do love coffee, yes, Duncan? We can edit that in post.
Yes. Coffee beans is what get me out of bed in the morning.
Coffee beans.
So how you doing this morning?
Yeah.
A little rough. A little too much whiskey last night. Slept through my personal alarm, but I'm awake now. A couple coffees in me, feeling better.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about last night? It sounded a little fun.
Well, just, we're working in shifts right now with skeleton crews, so we don't all get sick at the same time. So I just finished up a 5-day shift, so I got the next 5 days off. So celebrated with a little too much whiskey. That's all.
Well, I'd imagine
you didn't have to get up today for work or anything.
Well, you guys
took advantage.
So you're working in skeleton crews to not get sick?
Right, so that way, if we do get sick, you just take out the skeleton crew and you insert the next skeleton crew in.
Yeah, but don't skeletons carry worse diseases than just regular corona?
I suppose
it's a person.
Depends how long the skeletons have been there. If they don't have any flesh or meat hanging off them, if they're just bone,
what about
I don't think they'd have
bone?
too many diseases on them.
I'm just saying, be careful, Duncan. I love you.
Let me jump in here. Can I pause this for a second? So, had a long night last night. A little bit of fun, a little bit of whiskey. Now waking up today, brush it off. Have some coffee. You said you were working in shifts. Is this security?
This is HVAC.
That's right. You're you're a technician.
Yeah, essential worker, baby.
Yeah. I should have had that in the intro.
I'm working the RA shifts on the island as well because one of those guys has COPD, which is one of the main underlying diseases or conditions where COVID-19 is highly lethal. So me and recent college grad on the island are covering his shifts as well. And then doing a bunch of side HVAC jobs on the island.
That's probably good to just be safe.
Yep.
So, I understand that you're into politics, Duncan. We were going to come up on this sooner or later. You brought up a little contention with me calling you a dirty commie. I can't see why.
Not every progressive is a communist or even a socialist. A lot of us are just utilitarian in that we want to do the most good for the most people.
Well, that doesn't sound so bad until people start starving.
Well, that wouldn't be the most good for the most people.
You bring up some great points. So, Dylan, do you want to let us in on what you're up to?
So there it is. Perfect. It is called the Pes Inserine. PES_ANSERINE. So basically, there are 3 hip flexor and quadricep muscles that all attach at the same spot on your knee, and that's where I'm starting to feel some inflammation, and that's where it's really starting to bug my knee. So I need to find some way to get that hot knee a little bit cool down a little bit. So if it starts at the insertion spot right there on the knee, it can translate up, and since these are 3 attachment spots leading to 3 different muscles, that's causing some some tonic characteristics in my hip flexes and stuff. So I'm thinking a 2-pronged approach of the stretching, and as well as looking up some rehab for trying to restore these attachment sites to the sartorius, brachialis, and semitendinosus.
Okay, so we're going to start a GoFundMe to help Dylan fix his knee, because he always has knee problems. Every morning, every day I wake up and Dylan has a brand new contraption with some elastic band. Our living room is just full of foam rollers and weird. They look like medieval torture devices, like some weird blue S-shaped hard plastic. I don't know, man. I don't know.
And I always seem to be crying on the ground.
He's just
whining in pain.
He's begging for what is the meaning of life?
Oh fuck!
Just but
that was me just sitting on the ground.
Yeah, so
because I'm so healthy. That's why I'm in pain all the time, because of how hard I health.
He's very healthy. And Duncan, that's good that healthy people like you are able to take up positions from people who are at higher risk of this disease. We won't mention it on the air what the name of the disease is, because YouTube is trying to suppress videos about that sort of thing. So
really?
Trying to what?
Yeah, I think a lot of the popular YouTube channels that I follow now, they aren't able to actually use the name.
Is that because of all the disinformation that's being spread out there?
It could be. I mean, maybe only certain channels have permission to talk about it. I don't know.
You probably have to have some expertise in the field. I mean, because I know Russia especially has been conducting a decades-long disinformation medical campaign across the world, and they've come under fire for their lack of reporting on cases in Russia and all that kind of stuff. They're ones pushing a lot of their computer code farms to push this is the flu, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, seems like we just kind of ran into a problem like this with Russia with that. I just watched the Chernobyl documentary.
Oh yeah, no, it's been their playbook for decades now.
Their playbook, Duncan. These are your people.
My people. These are not my people.
I saw those pictures. We all saw those pictures, Duncan.
What picture? Oh,
yeah. All right. So you want to tell the people? You want to tell the folks the story behind that?
So it's a bit of a family tradition in my home that we go down to D.C. for Inauguration Day, and a couple days before that, a whole peaceful transition of power, all that kind of stuff. Democrat, Republican, doesn't matter. We go down. So we went down for Trump's inauguration 3 years ago now. And it was me, my dad, my sister, and the night before the inauguration, we were going out town drinking, and we did so dressed up in Russian attire. I think I had the Red Star t-shirt. We all had old Russian military caps on, And the response was pretty funny. Like 95% of people thought we were hilarious. We were holding up a manila envelope that said Donald Trump's PP tape on it. But it was interesting to people who didn't like us. It was pretty split amongst the left and right. People on the left who didn't like us, they'd come up and just be like, it's really serious. This isn't a funny, laughing matter. Like, this is like real. This is authoritarianism. This is the end of democracy. I don't think you guys should be joking about it. Which, all right, relax, people. And then on the other end of the spectrum was hardcore right-wingers who failed to see any irony in it whatsoever. My sister was wearing a Pussy Riot t-shirt. You guys know who the band Pussy Riot is?
I've heard of them. They're from a different country, though, and I'm American, and I don't really know much about different countries.
So they're a Russian punk rock activist band who've been jailed by Putin several times at this point. So they're like a symbol against the oppression of Putin.
Hold on, just for other American people like myself, who is Putin?
Vladimir Putin. He's the I don't know what his official title is, whether it's president or prime minister or what at this point. He's the dictator of Russia. He fixes elections. He increases presidential terms for his own office when he's in so he can keep running. Former KGB officer. He's pretty famous. I'd be surprised if most people didn't know who he was at this point. He kills foreign journalists who speak out against them using poison. There was a very famous case a couple years ago where he was accused of assassinating a reporter hiding out in England with poison that was found in Russia. So while there's no proof, it's pretty obvious, where that order came from. He's been doing this for decades. Like I said, former KGB officer. He knows that shadow world.
Yeah. Okay. So Putin, he did something to sort of like restrict the freedoms of this band.
Yeah, well, he jailed them for speaking out against them, as he does. They don't have a free press. Or, they're kind of like China in that sense. So he jails them. So their Pussy Riot is a band that's a symbol of against Russian oppression. Okay. We're at a bar, we're drinking, and this fucking asshole just comes up and like points at my sister's t-shirt and goes, "That's disgusting."
Oh, come
and so
on.
Clearly my dad and I get up right in the guy's face, and he goes on to say something like, "We didn't fight those commie bastards for you to propagate their beliefs here in America." And so first of all, we're like, the fuck you talking about? We never fought Russia. Right? The Cold War, very famous thing, but it was a Cold War because there was no direct fighting. It was a nuclear arms race. It was proxy wars in Afghanistan. It was military base positioning in Ukraine and Cuba. There was never any Russian on American casualties. There just weren't.
It's like he's he doesn't realize that he's like arguing the opposite point that
we were trying to, dispense with. He was also just drunk. I think he was just an asshole looking for a fight. Old school, probably old boys club. He didn't like seeing a girl with the word pussy on her t-shirt. So we get into a big fight. The bar owner comes over, kicks those two guys out, and lets us stay. So,
hey, score one.
Rationality prevailed in the end.
Score one for freedom.
But yes, those pictures exist, and somehow I'm being called a communist now because of them, when really that was not the purpose of us wearing Russian outfits to Trump's inauguration.
Okay, so now I just have a few questions about the story, Duncan.
Yes.
So you wore this outfit all day, right?
Right.
How long did you wear the outfit?
How long did we wear the outfit?
Yeah, was it like a few-day event, or was it just for the inauguration? How long did you spend?
So we were there in D.C. for 2 days, the night before and the day of. We wore it, I shouldn't even say we wore it the whole day. We wore it when we went out to bar hop at night, so probably from 6 p.m. to midnight, 1 in the morning-ish, somewhere in that range.
You didn't wear it to the inauguration?
No. We wore Bernie Sanders t-shirts to the actual inauguration.
Okay, so same thing, communist propaganda. But back to the 6 hours you were at the bar. I thought I remembered you telling me somebody spilled a beer on you or something? Or did you guys get any beer spilt on you?
No, I mean, no beer was spilled. I mean, it was packed. I'm sure some beer was inadvertently spilled just walking from the bar to our table. Nothing like that serious, though. I mean, this guy, like, he was yelling at us, so a little bit of his spit was coming at us, but he looked like he was about to leave anyways and, like, stopped when he saw us to come yell at us. So, no, he didn't have a beer to spill on us or anything.
Okay, and now when did you shower? Did you shower in that 2-day span, or that night into the morning?
I'm pretty sure I showered, if not that night, the next morning, and then the next day at the inauguration, after it, we were walking around town to watch all the riots going on, and we were in the middle of one that got broken up by tear gas, and I got caught a bit residual tear gas, so we went back to the hotel and I showered to get that out of my system. So yeah, I was pretty clean during those 2 days.
Okay, because you showered because presumably you weren't clean and you wanted to get clean, right?
Sure. I mean, sure.
So you were,
Isn't
in
that
a
why we
sense,
all
dirty,
showered?
right?
So
You were, in a sense,
anyone
dirty.
who is not in the shower by that logic is just dirty.
Is just dirty. So, Duncan, I believe that we've just proved the point that you are a dirty commie.
I'll see the point.
Case
For
closed.
those 6 hours, I was
Just because I'll see
in a
this
Russian
point.
military cap.
I took some breaking down.
So, Dunk, this is
That's
something
wild. That's wild.
because you're possibly the most politically informed, like most up to date on current events and stuff in the sphere of influence of people I know. So, this is something I want to get your opinion on. What do you think about that whole montage Trump did, like the other day, about how all the news, all the different media sources were downplaying the virus?
Well, the first thing I want to say about that is just you two watched it, right?
Yeah, it was like 2 minutes, right?
Yeah.
I didn't see like the context that it was in.
The first thing I thought of when I'm watching that was I feel like any of us could have put together a much better, much higher quality 2.5 minute video in like our high school graphics classes. Like,
especially the
It
cue
was just
card
such
things
poor
in
quality.
between each one.
Yeah.
Those were like so childlike.
So childlike, like the cuts from the news clips to just a white background with black block lettering. There was no transition. There was no, video effects added to it. I was just like,
Well, it wasn't
I was
like
watching, just like it looked like a middle schooler.
he
man.
wasn't
I
submitting
could've
it
come
to
up with
like
something better in high school.
it wasn't like gonna get an Oscar. He wasn't gonna submit it to like the Sundance Film
Yeah, but it
Festival.
was to the country,
No,
man.
no.
It's just to
I
get
was
a
just-
point across.
It's just crazy to think that was an official approved video coming out of the White House's office. So that tells me one of a few things. One, that thing, and Trump even said it right after when he was asked how long did it take to make. He said
Yeah.
his aides put it together in
2 hours,
I'm
less than 2 hours.
together. Two, that means they put it together very last minute to have ready for that Monday press conference,
Right.
which means Trump probably ordered them to make it right before he went on. And the reason he did that, I think, is because the New York Times over the weekend had come out with an article showing all the ways that they claim Trump mishandled and delayed our response to the disease, which will not be named. And so Trump spends all weekend getting hammered on Twitter by it from his critics, doctors, journalists, just sharing this article. And honestly, I read the article. It's a lot of like fine print governmental networks. I don't know how much of it you can really put on Trump himself. Like, his administration is just as much to blame. There's plenty of organizations and mayors and governors throughout America who also did not take it as seriously as Trump. So I didn't even think the article was as damning as a lot of people were claiming it was. But Trump is such a egotistical little man where he just sees him being criticized by what he views as, fake news media out to get him. That he forces his aides, who I'm sure have a million other things to be worried about during this crisis, to put together this 2.5 minute montage of Fox News hosts saying how good of a Trump he's done. And then like the New York Times journalist Maggie Haberman on her podcast, on the New York Times podcast, The Daily, he includes a quote in it where she says, she's talking about how and even like the WHO had criticized Trump for shutting down travel from China on January 30th. And she goes on to say that this probably was a good move and gave us about a month to a month and a half of time to prepare. And then the video cuts off the quote right there when she immediately continues in the podcast, but he did nothing in that month and a month and a half after he made the right call. So they just don't even include the full quote, which is just classic media manipulation.
Yep, just cherry picking everything that supports what they
put to put a video or a quote in the right context. Well, in their right context.
So
there was misrepresentations of quotes. There was just a poor video quality overall to it. I mean, that is what propaganda is. I mean, there's no really ifs, ands, or buts about it. That is Trump not liking that the recent polling numbers showing more Americans disapprove of his handling of the coronavirus epidemic. Oh, I said it, my bad. Then approve of it.
That's it, we're off the air.
And he freaked out and wanted a media play. And he's not been able to do his rallies during this because of the ban on gatherings. So he's turned these press conferences into daily rallies. He's up there for 2 hours. He goes in there looking for a fight with reporters half the time. Mm-hmm. And it's just, I mean, I was watching them every day when they were first happening. But once I realized what they were, I mean, I didn't watch them again for the last couple of weeks until I heard about the video. And I had to watch this one. And it was just Trump at his most combative, embracing the most id of himself. He went out there looking for a fight. He knew the reaction the video was going to get, and he wanted to try to punch back after the beating he took over the weekend. I think it's as simple as that. People shouldn't take it more serious than that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for someone who's basically been living under a rock as far as like current events and stuff, I watched a couple of these press conferences, and they seem like pretty sensational, like more sensational than they should be and less factual.
Yeah.
And
if they were real coronavirus update, like they were pitched originally, the only people on that stage would be probably Dr. Anthony Fauci, Dr. Birx, and maybe you could justify Mike Pence since Trump appointed him as the head of the coronavirus response team.
Shout out to Mike Pence.
I guess you could put the U.S. Surgeon General up there. Like, if you're not a medical professional or the head of the response team, like, there's no real reason for President Trump to be there. You can make the claim that he's up there giving hope, but he's just misrepresenting facts. He's not telling the truth. Like, the whole we're going to be reopened by Easter thing, that's not hope. That's false hope. And I think that's much more dangerous to Americans than just telling them the facts on the ground.
So, one thing about these conferences that really stood out to me is it's just how remarkable how when someone asks a question, how they get 4 or 5 words and then their mic just gets like silenced. Trouble talk over them like before they finish their sentence. I get that he has to do that to some extent because they'll just keep rambling, or they'll be making like some stupid point.
Jenna party.
But it's just kind of absurd how some of them, like their questions don't get answered. And honestly, some of the questions are just kind of dumb, to be honest. Like they don't seem.
Oh, absolutely. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of bad actors in journalism, like that is no doubt. But I think a lot of people forget a journalist's role in regards to covering the government is to be critical. Is to really try to talk truth to power, try to see through facade. Because a free press is one of the pillars of a free society. Mm-hmm. I mean, you look at any authoritarian regime, China, Russia, North Korea, one of the main through lines in all of them is they don't have a free press.
You know what,
so
Duncan?
Even if it's a Democratic president, we need Fox News journalists to really push them. And when we have a Republican president, we need the CNN journalists. We need the New York Times journalists to really push them.
No, that's like, very well said. I'm starting to think you might not be a dirty commie. You're starting to sound like like you might maybe like an unkempt commie or like a disheveled commie, but definitely not a dirty
I've been called dirty hippie plenty of times, and I always correct them. I'm a very clean hippie, so I guess a disheveled commie is better than nothing.
Not a dirty commie. Sanitary commie. Well, no, that does make a lot of sense. And one thing that Trump said, I don't know if it was yesterday or 2 days ago or whatever, but one of the journalists, like you said, their role is to sort of be very critical of the president and stuff. But Trump was like, good, like, that's fine. Like, it was very Abraham Lincoln-esque, I thought, when he was like, yeah, controversy is good as long as it's honest controversy. So I think
I don't
he just
disagree with him with that. It's just his words so rarely reflect his actions. So, like, I just don't take anything he says at face value.
Yeah, but that was in reference
for weeks
to...
and weeks, he said he was going to use the War Powers Act to get companies to make ventilators, to get tests, and it just never happened. It took weeks of him saying he would and then not doing it until he finally pressured Ford into changing their manufacturing plants into creating ventilators, into finally pushing chemical research industries to start trying to make the reagents necessary for widespread testing, which we're still not even close to. So it's just one of those things I just don't believe. At this point, he's told so many lies over the years. Like, you got to look at his actions, not his words. That's the other reason I have stopped watching these press briefings. It's just a layman who's not in politics, who's not seeing what's going on behind closed doors. It's just so hard for me to justify wasting time on that.
Fair point. Wow.
So Duncan, what is your opinion of Bernie Sanders fighting the establishment and then within 2 days folding like a fold-up chair and supporting and endorsing Joe Biden like none of it ever happened? He didn't spend the last 6 months saying he's an evil, unkempt man.
Well, it's because he did it. I mean, that's misinformation.
Right,
Biden and Bernie are very good friends in real life. If you look at the debates, their disagreements have come with laughs, have come with shoulder shakes, have come with chuckles from each of them. Bernie's never accused of him being a corporate shill. He's accused of being having an integral in the Democratic establishment. Those are two very different claims. There's a lot of Russian coding farms once again out there, putting out disinformation, making Bernie memes to try to get Bernie bros to, if not vote for Trump, sit out this election. And the truth is, I mean, you just see Trump's actions in this crisis. I know a lot of people have been talking about how Biden has dementia. You know, they're doing armchair psychology over there.
The man
and don't get me wrong, I'm
sentence.
very concerned by a lot of these videos as well. But people have to understand, like, a lot of the presidency is who you're surrounding yourself with. And I just trust the people a Biden presidency would bring in much more than the cabinet that Trump currently has. Trump has surrounded himself with yes men, when at first he had kind of a team of rivals. He had General Mattis in there. He had Rex Tillerson in there. He had, like, pretty smart, capable people who were willing to tell Trump, no, this is dumb or wrong or whatever. And he's fired all of them. Anyone who spoke against them is gone now. Like, it's just yes men. I don't think Biden would do that. I think Biden would probably keep those type of people in government, especially if he knows that his own sanity might be slipping a little bit. So that's where I'm just more forgiving to Biden. I don't think he's rich chill. I think he's an establishment Democrat. Trust me, I would love if we got a new generation of there. I think these 70 to 80-year-olds are just out of touch with the problems that the generations coming into adulthood have to deal with today. But given the option of Trump and Biden, I mean, it's just not close. Like, I don't have to think about that for 2 seconds.
How do you think the debates are going to go?
Oh, I mean, Trump's going to murder him in the debates. There's not much. I mean, on top of Biden mental capacity slipping a little bit, which Trump's obviously are too. Like, let's not just focus on Biden's. Biden has a stutter on top of it, so he's never been a great debater. He kicked the crap out of Sarah Palin in those debates. That was much more just Palin had no business being there. That was just, all Biden had to do was smile and not call her stupid to her face, and he was going to win those debates.
That was 12 years ago.
He's not performed well at any of the Democratic debates this election cycle. And Trump's an attack dog. Biden does. I don't know if Biden has that in him. People call him the happy warrior. I don't really know what that means. I've never seen him in fight mode. So I'm very worried about the debates. Absolutely.
Duncan, so I got a very important question for you.
I'm all ears.
So just to back up a little bit, we talked having a. So you said Corey, which is one of our other friends, he qualifies as a Bernie bro. So having like a cardboard cutout, full size stand up of Bernie Sanders qualifies you as a Bernie bro in your living room.
Yes, I would say it does.
So my question is, what does having a Mark Ruffalo one qualify you as?
Well, it's got to have alliteration, so maybe a Mark man.
Okay.
A Ruffalo ruffian.
Oh, whoa, I like that. That's a good one. All right, well, Duncan, a lot of good stuff today. A lot of it was way out of my element, over my head. I don't know shit about politics, but
yeah, I hope people aren't too annoyed at some of my Trump rants. Anyone who knows me knows I'm real progressive.
Listening to too much Sam Harris.
There's not much of Trump. I will say banning the Chinese travel January 30th, great move by him. Scientists conducted studies on mutations of COVID that we've in patients have tested positive in America, and most of the mutations in our population are ones that came from Europe, according to them, not China. So, like, that move was great, but like Maggie Haberman's quote that got cut off, the problem was that great move he made on January 30th. He did nothing in the month of February to capitalize on the time he gave us. So by the time that he imposed the European travel ban in early March, it was too late. Too many people had already come. We did not use that time to stockpile, personal protective equipment. We still don't have widespread testing. We just don't. We're saving it for the hot zones right now. And you just look at the difference that those two things make. South Korea, they have 4 deaths per million people. Here we have 80. Like, we are more than 40 times higher death rate here than in South Korea. So I think both things can be true. Democrats who called Trump for being xenophobic for shutting down China, they are wrong. Democrats calling Trump xenophobic and racist for calling the coronavirus the China virus or the China flu, I think they're also. This is coming from China wet animal meat markets, and we need to shine a spotlight.
Don't eat the bats,
or these diseases are going to keep coming out of China. SARS came out of there. Like, this is not the first time China's inability to regulate their food industry has caused a worldwide crisis.
Right. So, okay.
But at the same time, you can also criticize Trump for not doing anything in the month of February, for minimizing it, for calling it just a cold, for calling it Democratic hoax, for saying when we had 15 cases from the cruise ship, soon it'll be a miracle, that number 0 when it went in April, all the cases will go away. I mean, that was also wrong. So I think two things can be right at the same time.
For sure. So this has been a very serious, very different tone, like a very serious tone for our podcast than we're used to. A lot more like political stuff, which is good. It's good to be informative. Duncan, I want to end on something fun. So, what are you doing? To pass the time here in the quarantine?
What are you doing?
That's a good question. So right now I'm quarantining with my sister Shaylin, who had a cut. She was doing Peace Corps in Rwanda, and because of the crisis, she had to be evacuated and come back home. So she's been living with me for the past couple months, really month. So we've been doing BBG workouts, which I did not realize this when we started them, but it
BBG workouts.
BBG, Bikini Body Girl workouts. So that's what we've been doing a lot.
Well, this sounds like something we could make a little spin on this. Maybe do a GPP workout, a God's Plan podcast workout. We invented a form of exercise here. It's called a health up. It's similar to your standard run-of-the-mill push-up, but it's actually one health up is 10 push-ups, and in between each one, you have to shout out some kind of positive, healthy, affirmative thing. For instance, like, you do one push-up, stability. You do another push-up, strength. You do another push-up, capitalism. No.
Right, like good, healthy things that bring you up.
No. Well, that's... Maybe there could be a way to incorporate doing health ups into the bikini. What is it? Bikini bottom girl.
Bikini body girl.
Bikini body girl.
Yeah, so I've been getting my bikini body in shape for when the quarantine is finally lifted.
Hell yeah.
I've been doing a lot of Netflix, a lot of Hulu, some NBA 2K on the Xbox. I haven't really done any reading, which I'm surprised with. I thought I'd get a ton of reading done during this, and I was actually, with my sister and I were discussing this, neither of us, my other sister, Kelsey, neither of us have really done any reading lately. And we think it's just maybe because we both do a lot of current event reading about the spread of the disease that will not be named, about the toll it's taking on healthcare workers,
virus.
about the toll it's taking on the economy, domestic violence cases going up at home. And it's taking up so much of our stress bandwidth that to open just a fiction book, it doesn't sound like that's like a hard thing to do, but it's just hard for me to do anything that requires effort when we're done reading, about what's going on in the world right now. So then we kind of just default to browsing Netflix for an hour before we finally choose something. So we got to figure out how to manage our stress in these times a little bit better. That's why we started with the BBQ
keyboard
workouts to try to get a little better release.
Okay, well, Duncan, it was amazing to have you on. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. Anything you want to say to the fans? How can they reach you? That sort of thing?
No, I purposely am not on social media because I do not
Don't
want to be
reach
reached.
me.
I purposely live on an island because I do not care for people most of the time. I will say this quarantine has made me really can't wait to go bar hopping again. I will say that.
All right.
But I will just recommend a reading piece that I read today that I think it impacted me a great deal today. It would impact a lot of people who maybe live in rural communities or aren't seeing for their own eyes what the virus that will not be named is doing to our country and to our frontline healthcare workers. It's a diary of an ER doctor in New York City. The headline is, "I'm an ER doctor. None of us will ever be the same." It brought me to tears this morning. I highly recommend it. It really takes you from the very first case in New York City on March 1st into today, mid-April, and just one ER doctor's experience. And like I said, I mean, it is an emotional read. It's a stressful read, but I think it's important that we are all cognizant of what our healthcare professionals are going through every single day.
Very heavy. Well, that is a great message, and it's important to remember that all the healthcare workers do need some love out there, so I'm really glad you brought that up, Duncan. Again, it was a pleasure to have you on, and we hope to see you again.
Thanks, Duncan.
Thanks for having me on.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the God's Plan podcast. This has been an Audio Vox recording. If you enjoyed today's show, please like and subscribe. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter. I can't think of the handle right now, but we do have one.